probably are low, but I would not dismiss them. The problem with a jury nullification strategy is it can tick off a judge. This was a case of overwhelming evidence, and it seemed pretty clear to everyone that the defense was going for a nullification. That may not sit well with the judge, but even if she imposed jail time, it would be relatively short. The tax case, not so much. That is a much more serious set of allegations where jail time can be more substantial.
So what you were talking about with this nullification would mean that they looked at the evidence that was solid and then they would just decide, but we don't want to convict him. And that's the card that the defense played, and it backfired. It didn't work for them. I want to bring in Carrie Urban. Carrie, we're watching now what we took live, but now watching it from moments ago, Hunter Biden leaving the courthouse with his wife, Melissa Cohn, and his stepmom, Jill Biden, there hugging, saying goodbye. If it was strategy to show love for him in the courtroom, was it the right strategy? Or, I mean, I can imagine a parent wants to be there for their child.
Look, to your point, a parent does want to be there for their child, but a couple things. One, Hunter Biden is an adult.
He's 54.
He's 54. And what I thought was a bit curious and maybe taking it a step too far was when the First Lady showed up to jury selection. You know, people typically don't attend that, Harris. And the fact that the First Lady of the United States sat there while juror after juror was picked, she's looking intently, making comments. I mean, think about how you feel if you're from Delaware and, you know, small town, small state, and the First Lady of the United States is sitting there watching you. You know, how can that not impact how you're feeling and what's going on? And so it may have backfired a bit. But, you know, what I'm wondering is if there's any discussion within the Biden family right now about them feeling whiplash. Because don't forget, just a year ago, the Department of Justice was offering Hunter Biden the plea deal of a lifetime, including immunity from future prosecution. I mean, no one gets that deal. And it was done. And it was ready to go. And that judge stepped in. And now here we are just about a year later. And he's been convicted on all 3 counts. So you have to wonder what changed exactly at DOJ to make them go from one extreme to the other. Now, I would say it's probably public pressure. Once everyone saw what Hunter Biden was being handed, they said, look, this isn't fair. This isn't right. It looks like special treatment for the president's son. And then DOJ did this about face and leaned in so much that yesterday they waved to the Biden family sitting there as they supported Hunter and said, all of this doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is evidence. So I can only imagine that kind of conversation that has to be taking place right now.
And Andrew, obviously that jury heard that prosecutor who said that family members, these human beings in the box, I mean, you've been looking at from the box, are not evidence in this case.
Yeah, you wonder how much pressure that put on them. Obviously, with this verdict and the time that the verdict took to get there, not much. Because as much as he may have had family supporting him right behind him in the gallery there was also plenty of family that had to take the witness stand against him and expose so much of what he did over those years with the drug abuse, but not just drug abuse that affected him. It affected so many people around him. So even if the jurors may have had a little bit of sympathy, I think that went away so quickly when they saw exactly what he did.
It had to be hard, though, sitting there and your neighbor, they have 2 houses in Delaware. Your neighbor comes in and now she's the First Lady.
I would look at the camera and say, I love my son. And everybody in this country can relate to having somebody in their family that they love struggling with addiction and the challenge that puts your family through. And I'll tell you, those were the things that people remembered from the debates in 2020 where Joe Biden, it was Joe Biden making that argument. So, the idea, and then add on to that, the point that was just made earlier, that this really undermines the argument that Trump's been making about Joe Biden weaponizing the justice system. So, I think the politics of this are not going to be as beneficial to Trump and the Republicans. And maybe that's why the Trump campaign's struggling to get a statement out, because they're not quite sure what to say.
What do you think?
I'm not going to comment on the politics of it, but I will say that, we're talking about, something with up to 25 years in jail, but
potentially,
exactly, potentially. And that's not the reality of it. Because in the federal system, you have the statutory maximum, but then you have the U.S. sentencing guidelines. The sentencing guidelines are a very complicated set of mathematical calculations. I just did a very brief calculation on this, where it's a base level offense, 14, but then you take 8 points off if it was possessed for sporting or collection purposes and was not unlawfully discharged or otherwise unlawfully used. The sentencing guidelines range is going to recommend 0 to 6 months in jail. So chances are Hunter's going to get probation. And I think that the president is going to be very hard pressed to commute that sentence if he gets probation, because if he commutes it, then he also takes away his right to appeal. And so I think that it's a very interesting thing where he is going to appeal. It's going to be very fascinating to watch the appeal, because it brings, unlikely partners together, because you're not only going to have, Hunter Biden, you're going to have the NRA, filing amicus briefs. And quite frankly, because it's an issue of, drug use and Second Amendment rights, you're going to have amicus briefs from the cannabis industry. And a lot of other, very unlikely bedfellows are going to get together on this. So I think it's something that he is almost certainly not going to be seeing the inside of a jail cell, but it is going to have some very interesting ramifications going forward.
Jamie, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, before dismissing the parties, the judge, our reporters in the courtroom are reporting that the judge told Hunter Biden's team that sentencing is usually set for 120 days after the verdict. And I point that out because that would mean that sentencing would be in mid-October, right before Election Day. But to Tim's point, if this is likely to be probation, I think that is going to have, it's going to lessen the political impact of, you're not going to have the son of a president likely going to prison. One other point I want to make, we've talked a lot about how some of these jurors had experience in their families with addiction. And I just want to say that may make you sympathetic. It may also make you realistic about what someone's behavior is like when they're addicts. Just, they came to this for
all gravity, any day above ground limit.
I'm back.
verdict very quickly.
So y'all have heard from CNN, you heard from Fox. Hunter Biden has been found guilty of federal gun charges. This ain't good for 2A. This is not good. I understand what the libertarians be talking about. But I put in this chat just now that everyone's getting on code. You just heard what that woman said. The NRA is going to file a motion to vacate this conviction because they're looking at the bigger picture. Even though it's somebody that you don't like on the other side, they're looking at it from the 2A standpoint. Like she said, the cannabis industry, this verdict targeted them as well. They're going to say something. I've told y'all in the past, white supremacy will get on one accord when it's an issue that goes against them, especially when it comes to us. It doesn't matter if they're liberal, doesn't matter if they're conservative, doesn't matter if they're Democrat, doesn't matter if they're Republican. They will get on code. I don't see them doing it. I don't see them having them sit down. I don't see it. Because you got to understand, I also was about to put in the chat before I said something. You got the Fani Willis verdict, if she's going to continue that Trump case, October 4th. Then a week later is Hunter Biden sentencing. This is political theater, family. Whatever they rule with Fani Willis, they're going to rule for Hunter Biden. If she's off that case, he's going home. He'll get probation. If they say that she can continue the case, they will say, okay, Hunter, you're going to have to sit down. Don't get it fucked up. Delaware is a red state. Don't get it fucked up. I've had family that lives there. Ask Lisa. She'll tell you Delaware is not as blue as they like for it to be portrayed because it's in the Northeast. That shit is red. You get outside of Wilmington, that shit is red. But I don't give a damn. outside of the two-way stuff, I really don't care about this verdict. Trump got convicted as a Republican in New York. Hunter Biden got convicted as a Democrat in the banking sector of the country. Okay. You want a conclusion for this? Here you go.
Continue with the moment of truth in just a moment, but first, a word from the official sponsor of Black Empowerment, Power Tools. There's no telling when something's going to come up, so make sure you carry your power tools at all times. You never know when you're going to need to bring the hammer down, or when you'll have some trash that needs to be blown away, or some obstacle that requires cutting down. Don't get caught empty-handed. Keep your hammer close by. Keep that leaf blower at the ready, and always carry your steel. Power Tools. Because no matter what your day job or side hustle may be, there's no excuse for not being ready to put in some work.
That's the heart of the issue in this case. So, for example, just a couple of weeks before Hunter Biden signed the form, Zoe Keston, his girlfriend from New York, testified that she saw him doing drugs just shortly before the form was signed. Just a day or two after the form was signed, Hallie Biden testified that she saw a text from Hunter stating that he was waiting to meet his dealer Mookie to get more drugs. And there was another text that demonstrated that the following day, it appeared that he was laying on top of his car in Wilmington,
like I said,
Delaware.
Mike, we'll find out in 4 months.
So on the one hand, I think the jury was a good jury pool. They really drew a good jury in this case because there was some sympathy based upon their family factors. But when you look at the weight and the coloring of the evidence from a timing perspective, it is something that really drives to a result that is not surprising. I'll just add one additional point with respect to the perspectives on appeal. I agree that the Fifth Circuit decision from last summer is something that will definitely get teed up on appeal. But let's also keep in mind that there's a significant issue with respect to the evidence. The defense tried to call an expert witness to testify with respect to state of mind, how people who are addicts sometimes have a very difficult framework in terms of determining and appreciating whether or not they are current users or addicts. When someone tries to offer expert witness testimony in a case like this, the court usually deems it to go to the weight rather than the admissibility of the evidence. It was surprising that that evidence was rejected. That will also be a very significant issue that goes upstairs on appeal as this verdict gets appealed by the defense team.
All right, I want you guys to stand by. Seth Barron-Swag and Elise Adamson will continue our legal analysis of this historic moment. First time in American history, a child of a sitting president of the United States has now been convicted on 3 counts. They're guilty on all 3 counts. We're watching all of this very closely. Let's go back to the White House. Arlette Saenz is getting more reaction over there. What are you learning, Arlette?
Well,
Nothing that I care about. Anyway. Here we go. Yes, something needs to be said. They're trying to take away your 2A rights. You better look at that. Y'all can focus on who the fuck it is. I could care less. This is how they mess with our rights. I got a black man sitting down right now for doing nothing with guns. Now they got this asshole on federal gun charges. They're trying to mess with your 2A rights. Because this government doesn't want us to rise up. Y'all better realize the game they're trying to play on us. You want to give up your 2A rights? That's fine. Do it. I'm not giving up mine. I went and got my card for a reason. I went and did the class for a reason. I need to protect what I hold precious. I don't like Hunter Biden with a sin in my soul. And yes, he's a criminal, but you're not going to attack 2A through him. You're not doing it. You're not going to attack 2A through Dexter Taylor. That's not happening. Because you pussies in the government don't want to do right by the people. I'm sorry. But anyway, family, we just wanted to bring you that quick bit of news before we get into the first of 2 lives today. Well, now this will probably be the 3rd or 4th, whatever. We're going to talk about video games in about 5 minutes. So if you stay here, it'll bring you into the next live, and we're going to go over there and look at trailers for 3 video games that are on the way and the reactions, because of course they have to have a problem with it. And this goes for everybody. They can't understand that video games are supposed to be like sports. It's supposed to be just a fantasy, escape from reality for a few hours. They can't do it. They got to bring the real world into it, which is not good. And James, I saw a few of them saying this is great, but I saw a lot of them say they don't care because they want to go after Big Biden. I'm curious to see what Dana Loesch is saying. That'll tell me everything because she's so connected with the NRA. That'll tell me everything. But we'll be on the lookout for that. But I will see y'all in about 4 minutes. Take care. Stay safe. And you know what to do when the agents of chaos come to mess up your existence. If my damn mouse would work.
Time's up.
At the end of the day got to end.
Hey!